On the day my team and I won the big project bid, my girlfriend, Sarah, came to me with an idea. She wanted to help her ex, Ben, boost his work performance record, and she suggested that I should add his name to the proposal I had worked so hard on. She said it would help lighten my load on the project. Instead of getting angry, I just laughed. I decided to give her ex the entire proposal, the one I had poured 6 months of my life into. Adding his name wasn't enough for me. From that moment on, he would be the only person in charge of the project. For a little while, everyone around me probably thought I had lost my mind. But what they didn't know was that I was the only person who truly understood the complex technology behind the proposal. Without my knowledge and input, the entire plan was like a house of cards waiting to fall down. Soon enough, Sarah and the company would default on the contract and end up deep in debt. "Oh, Alex, you're finally here. The bidding is over. I couldn't find you anywhere, so I did the presentation for you. I hope you're not mad, right?" Ben said, looking at me with wide, innocent eyes. Sarah, the company president, gave me a look of disapproval and said sarcastically, "Alex, did you even remember to check the time? On such an important day, how could you possibly be late? Fine, now that you're here, add Ben's name to the proposal so he can work on the project with you. We certainly don't need any more slip-ups from you." Sarah tossed my proposal onto the table as if it had no value at all. I just managed a small, knowing smile. The truth was, I had arrived at the bidding venue early that day. I was there well before the presentation was scheduled to begin, ready to go. But then Sarah called me. She demanded that I return to the office immediately for some urgent work. I was worried, so I rushed back as fast as I could, only to find that everything at the office was perfectly normal. There were no issues whatsoever. The urgent work was fake. By the time I drove all the way back to the venue, Ben was already on the stage, presenting my proposal to the client. Sarah had already signed the contract, introducing Ben to everyone as if he was the one who had led the project from the start. That was the moment it became clear to me. Sarah had lied to get me out of the way, just so she could share my hard-earned credit with Ben, her former boyfriend. Seeing my silence, Sarah grew impatient and rolled her eyes. "Alex, what is with this attitude? If Ben hadn't spoken up for you, your tardiness would have cost us this entire project. I would have fired you by now. Just adding his name? Consider yourself lucky I'm not doing more," she said. Her hand was still holding onto Ben's arm, as if she couldn't let go, completely ignoring the growing frustration I felt inside. This bidding was for a truly significant project in our industry, one that promised a massive $50 million in profit. That amount matched our company's entire revenue from the previous year. To get that proposal ready, I had gone out in all kinds of weather, braving both storms and intense heat. I covered every single inch of the city, gathering information and making connections. At one point, I even fainted from heat stroke, but still kept working on the proposal as soon as I was able. Meanwhile, Ben had stayed comfortably in the air conditioning, playing video games. I felt a cold chill run through my veins as I thought about it. Years ago, when Sarah wanted to start her own business, I had left a well-paying job and invested all of my savings to support her dream. Even though she didn't have many skills or connections in the business world, I carried the burden of getting the company off the ground. And now, just because Ben was her first love, his simple act of reciting my well-crafted proposal in front of the client had made him the hero in the spotlight. Ben, still pretending to be innocent, spoke up. "Oh, Alex, please don't be mad. I'm just a newcomer here. Your hard work truly deserves all the credit. I only wanted to help out because you weren't around. No name needed for me, really," he said with a humble tone. Sarah praised him even more after that. "Oliver, don't be so modest. You have great experience, much better than Alex's somewhat unusual ways of doing things," she told him. I almost laughed out loud. I knew for a fact that Ben's resume was completely fake. Only Sarah seemed to see him as some kind of valuable idol, protecting him from even the slightest hint of difficulty or criticism. Seeing me trying to hold back a laugh, Sarah frowned, belittling me further. "Alex, you have no right to laugh. You've achieved a little bit and suddenly forgotten where you came from. You will add Ben's name, or I will find someone else who is more capable to handle this project," she said with a harsh tone. Under Sarah's sharp criticism, I felt a mix of emotions, a painful tearing inside. Sarah seemed to have completely forgotten those difficult early years when it was just me, working tirelessly to support the business. Now, with a big breakthrough finally happening, all she wanted was to replace me with her cherished ex-boyfriend, acting as if they were simply picking up their relationship right where they had left off years ago. Taking a deep breath, I started to walk towards Ben. Some of my colleagues nearby quickly grabbed their phones, ready to record what they thought would be a dramatic confrontation. But when I reached Ben, I stopped. With a small smile, I took the proposal and deliberately crossed out my own name. "Adding a name isn't going to be enough," I announced clearly. "The project is now entirely yours, Ben." The people watching were stunned into silence. Some were so surprised they even dropped their phones. Everyone in the company knew my reputation for hard work and dedication. This project, with its $50 million in profit, was an enormous deal for us. Most people assumed I was somehow mocking Sarah's choice or making some kind of sarcastic point. Sarah recovered quickly, thinking I was just bluffing or trying to challenge her. Angrily, she demanded, "Alex, what exactly do you think you are doing? I am the president of this company. You can't even handle a few simple words now? In front of all these people, are you trying to rebel against me or something?" I watched Sarah, who was practically fuming with anger, and found the whole situation incredibly ironic. She was actually mad that I was willingly giving up the lead position on the project. Shouldn't she have been happier? I mean, this decision allowed Ben, her little sweetheart, to stay right by her side openly. Wasn't that what she had wanted all along? Ben, standing nearby, looked at the project plan with undisguised greed in his eyes, but he still managed to put on a show of fake humility. "Oh goodness, Alex, are you upset? I truly only wanted to help out. I had no plans at all to take your place," he said, trying to sound concerned. "Everyone knows you're a veteran at this company. If I somehow offended you, I will resign right this very moment." Seeing Ben's phony performance, I couldn't help but chuckle quietly to myself. He was talking about resigning while gripping onto my project plan, as if he was terrified the money might somehow slip through his fingers. I held back my true feelings of disdain and casually reached out, grabbing Ben's arm lightly. "Ben, what are you talking about? You're thinking too much about this," I said, still chuckling softly. "I'm just genuinely relieved that you are here to help out. Why would I be angry? I'm getting older now, and I can't handle working late nights like I used to. You are absolutely the best person to be the project lead for this." Sarah raised an eyebrow, giving me a suspicious glance, trying to figure out if I was showing any hidden displeasure or anger. But finding none that she could easily see, she just sneered with an arrogant air. "Oliver, just take it," she said dismissively. "There's no need to feel awkward about it. If it weren't for you, this project would have completely flopped. You absolutely deserve this. With your skills, you would have been a project lead sooner or later anyway." With Sarah's strong endorsement, Ben was practically jumping with joy inside, though he tried to appear calm. Sarah, meanwhile, gazed at him with obvious adoration. Seeing this, I couldn't help but scoff inwardly. Sarah was completely head over heels for him. Ever since she brought Ben into the company, all she seemed to think about was their romance, completely neglecting the actual progress and needs of the business. She didn't even realize that this project wasn't some kind of gold mine waiting to be claimed, but more like a hot potato that was about to cause serious problems. The client we had won the bid from was a huge, powerful player in the industry, known for having incredibly strict demands. They had specifically chosen my proposal because of the new technology I had mentioned in it, which promised cutting-edge efficiency and results. Even if Ben did take over my proposal and become the project lead, it was completely pointless without the technology to back it up. Without that specific technology, the entire plan was just empty words and wishful thinking. If Sarah messed this up, the industry giant would have absolutely no problem using their power to bankrupt her company completely. Sarah noticed my silence and the fact that I had actually handed over the project without a major fight. She seemed a little uneasy and cleared her throat before speaking. "All right. Since we won the bid, I won't hold your tardiness against you anymore," she announced. "We are having a company dinner later to celebrate. Ben, you are certainly welcome to join us if you'd like." "Alex," she said, raising her chin in a way that made it seem like she was granting me some massive favor, "you can come too." I was almost amused by her attitude. Everyone in the company knew that I was the main person who had contributed to getting that proposal ready and winning the bid, yet I needed her permission to join the celebration dinner? Seriously? Why would I even waste my time pretending to celebrate with these two fools? Just as I was about to politely decline her invitation, Ben suddenly seemed to remember something important. He acted all confused and surprised. "Oh, I completely forgot," he exclaimed. "The client asked me to deliver some of the proposal materials to their office. Maybe you guys should just go ahead to the dinner without me. It's really no big deal if I miss it." I was speechless at his obvious act. Even someone completely clueless could see that Ben was just fishing for Sarah's affection and attention. And sure enough, Sarah immediately softened, urgently pulling on Ben's hand. "Ben, you are the star of this project," she insisted. "It wouldn't feel meaningful at all without you at the dinner. You have worked so hard. You deserve to treat yourself and celebrate. Let someone else handle those small errands." With that, Sarah looked at me with a disdainful expression. "Alex, why are you just standing around? You have no awareness at all, even after all these years working here," she snapped. "Go and deliver the materials to the client's office. If you are late, don't even bother coming back to see me." I couldn't help but let out a cynical chuckle at Sarah's incredibly clear double standards. She could flip her attitude quicker than a switch. As if I cared about that dinner anyway. And with Sarah backing him up so strongly, Ben grew even more smug, trying his best to play the victim. "Lucas, I am truly sorry about this, but would you be able to handle this for me?" he asked me, his tone dripping with fake sweetness. "Once everything is settled, I will—" Before Ben could even finish his sentence, I took the materials he was holding and neatly tore them in half. Then I dropped my company ID badge onto the floor right there in front of everyone. In the stunned silence that followed, I spoke clearly. "Cut the act, both of you. I am not going to play these foolish games like Sarah is," I said, my voice firm. "I will not waste another second of my time doing anything for you." Seeing the torn materials and my discarded ID, Ben was completely dumbstruck, and so was Sarah. It took her a moment to react, and then she started yelling at me. "Alex, are you completely insane? I have turned a blind eye to you targeting Ben for long enough, but now you're quitting just to threaten me?" she shrieked. I just shrugged, a small smirk playing on my lips. "Don't flatter yourself, Sarah," I replied calmly. "Why would I ever be jealous of someone like him? And don't you dare lecture me. I have officially resigned. You have absolutely no right to yell at me or tell me what to do anymore." Sarah's face turned bright red with anger, and she opened her mouth to say something else, but I was already done with the conversation. I turned and walked away, not wanting to be involved with either of them for another moment. As I returned to my office to pack up my personal belongings, a small velvet box in my desk drawer caught my eye. Inside was a diamond ring, It was the engagement ring I had bought a while ago, preparing for this very moment. My plan had been to propose to Sarah once this big deal was sealed and the company was on solid footing. But now, I guess that wasn't going to happen. There was a time, long ago, when Sarah wasn't as cold and heartless as she was now. She used to be full of hope and light, like a little ray of sunshine that always managed to warm me up, even during the most difficult and stressful times of starting the business. Sarah was always by my side. In the freezing winter, when temperatures dropped below 10 degrees, she would wait patiently with me for clients without a single complaint. And after we managed to succeed in some small way, she would happily enjoy some hot, instant noodles with me, genuinely happy with our progress. As the company grew and became more successful, I felt like I owed her so much for those challenging early years. So I gave Sarah all of the company shares, making her the president and putting her in charge. But somehow she forgot all the promises we had made to each other back then. She became more petty, unreasonable, and focused on superficial things. She even brazenly brought Ben, her first love, into the company, acting as if they were simply picking up their old relationship right there in the workplace. Thinking about it all, I sighed deeply. Maybe I should have known all along that Sarah had never truly gotten over Ben, that there was never a real place for me in her heart. It was probably just my own wishful thinking all along. Just as I was about to leave my office for the last time, Sarah's voice cut through the air. "Oh, weren't you just acting so high and mighty a little while ago, saying you wanted to quit?" she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "What now? Do you regret it already and want to admit you were wrong?" I turned to see Sarah and Ben standing right behind me. My coworkers in the nearby offices had all noticed the commotion and were watching us. Ben, still trying to manipulate the situation, pulled on Sarah's sleeve and pretended to speak on my behalf. "Sarah, Alex must realize he was wrong," he said, trying to sound sympathetic. "Look, he's got a ring in his hand. He must have bought it for you, maybe to propose and apologize." Seeing the ring in my hand, Sarah was momentarily stunned. Then she cleared her throat and said in a haughty voice, "So, that's why you've been acting so strangely today? You're proposing? Well, since you are being sincere about it, I suppose I will reluctantly say yes." Sarah extended her hand, signaling for me to put the ring on her finger. But the next moment I frowned and tossed the ring directly into the trash can nearby. "Proposing to you?" I said, scoffing. "Don't flatter yourself too much." Ignoring Sarah's shocked expression, I picked up the rest of my things and walked out of the company office without looking back. Even as I walked away, I could hear Sarah yelling curses at me from behind. Back at my apartment, I started packing my belongings, ready to completely end things with Sarah for good. But before I could even finish, Sarah barged in furiously, looking like an angry rabbit with her face red and her eyes wide. "Alex! Did you lose your mind today?" she screamed at me. "Just because I said a few things, is that enough for you to act completely crazy and humiliate me in front of the entire company?" Listening to Sarah's condescending and self-centered tone just left me speechless. She still didn't understand her own mistake or the consequences of her actions. She truly thought that I was the one who had embarrassed her, not the other way around. It felt completely hopeless. Before I could even respond to her, Ben stepped in and stood behind her, pretending to speak up in a reasonable tone. "Alex, I have always admired you, but today I have to be fair about this," he said, trying to sound calm and rational. "Sarah is a woman, after all, and she is sensitive. By throwing the ring away like that, how can you possibly expect her to face anyone in the office again? If I had even a chance to propose to someone as amazing as Sarah, I would do absolutely anything for her." Hearing Ben's sickeningly sycophantic tone almost made me laugh out loud. Was he trying to show off his loyalty to Sarah right in front of me? Before I could say anything in response to him, Sarah gave me a vicious look and said with increasing arrogance, "See, Alex, you have changed, and not for the better. If this is how you want it, then we are completely done." Her threat didn't affect me at all. This wasn't the first time she had used breaking up as a way to get what she wanted. Ever since Ben had reappeared in her life, every major argument we had seemed to lead to a breakup threat from her. Back then, I loved her so much that I always ended up compromising, foolishly hoping that she would eventually come back to me fully. Looking back on it now, I must have been completely out of my mind. Why would I fight so hard for someone who never truly cared about me in the first place? After a moment of silence, Sarah seemed to think I had given in like I always did before. Flipping her hair with smug satisfaction, she continued, "Of course, I don't actually have to break up with you, as long as you apologize sincerely to Ben." I cut her off before she could finish her sentence. "No need for that," I said, my voice clear and firm. "I agree to the breakup." Hearing this, Sarah's eyes widened in complete disbelief. Ben, standing speechless next to her, looked absolutely thrilled, though he tried to hide his joy by pretending to be concerned. "Whoa, Alex, don't be so impulsive," he said, trying to sound like he was advising me. "You can't joke about breaking up like this after all those years together. It's been tough going from college days until now." Watching their little performance made me feel sick to my stomach. As I picked up my luggage, Sarah finally realized I wasn't kidding around this time. She pointed at me, her face contorted with anger. "Fine, break up then. Who even needs you?" she shrieked. "Just go, and don't you ever come back here again." Ben quickly grabbed my arm, still pretending to advise me. "Alex, please think this through carefully. If you break up with Sarah, what exactly will you do?" he asked, his eyes gleaming with a predatory light. "Sarah is the head of a big company now, and she just started working with that huge industry leader. She could easily ruin you with just one word." I understood perfectly. Ben was deliberately provoking Sarah, urging her to completely crush me and my future. And sure enough, Sarah, standing proud with her hands on her hips, said arrogantly, "Some people really seem to think they are important. Even a plan you couldn't figure out how to implement, Ben wrapped up in just one day. When this project finally takes off, we are talking billions in revenue. The company is going public very soon. What good are you to me now, anyway?" Seeing Sarah acting all smug and confident, I couldn't help but scoff out loud. The company going public? It was more like waiting for complete bankruptcy. Without the critical technology that only I possessed, there was absolutely no way their plan was going to work at all. It wouldn't be long before they realized the massive problem they were facing. Then, the client would sue them for 10 times the amount of damages, sending Sarah and the company straight into financial ruin. Before I could say anything else, Sarah's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the screen, then raised an eyebrow at me in a challenging way. "Oh, look," she said, a wide, confident smile spreading across her face. "They're already calling. Oh my money's just rolling in now and I can't stop it even if I wanted to." Then, Sarah deliberately put the call on speakerphone, probably to show off her supposed success. But the very next moment, the person on the other end of the line started yelling, their voice loud and angry. "What kind of completely useless, crappy plan is this?" the voice roared. "It is totally impossible to implement. If it is not fully put into action within 3 days, you can expect your company to go under. We will sue you into oblivion." Hearing the angry rant from the client, Sarah was completely stunned. Disbelief clearly written all over her face. "Can't implement the plan? No way, Mike. Is there some kind of terrible misunderstanding here?" she stammered into the phone. Watching Sarah's utterly confused expression, I couldn't help but laugh quietly to myself. She really was so focused on Ben and their relationship that she hadn't paid any attention at all to the actual details of the plan or its feasibility. Back at the meeting, Ben's presentation of the plan had sounded detailed and impressive, but neither he nor the company employees had the slightest understanding of the core technology required to make it work. That was because the technology was a brand new patent that I had just recently acquired myself. It was entirely my own property. Without my direct involvement in the implementation process, the plan was never going to achieve the efficiencies or results promised in the proposal. Meanwhile, Mike, the client on the other end of the line, being a major player in the industry, was not going to put up with any kind of nonsense or excuses. He snapped impatiently, "Enough chatter. One more thing. If your plan cannot be completed and operational in 3 days, we will be seeing each other in court. Be prepared." With that, Mike simply hung up the phone, leaving Sarah standing there, still completely shocked and speechless. Seeing her reaction, I couldn't resist saying something to her. "Weren't you just about to go public with the company, Sarah?" I asked, my tone mocking. "What now? You didn't even notice the massive issues with the plan? Still daydreaming about soaring high with Ben? You should really open those eyes of yours. This technology isn't even available to the public yet. It's still in the experimental patent phase. I was actually waiting for the technology to stabilize fully before surprising you with it at the proposal stage and making our success undeniable. But you decided to do things your own way and completely cut me out. Now, you just wait for that lawsuit to hit. It's coming for you." With that, before Sarah could say anything in response, I turned to leave. But then, Sarah suddenly grabbed my arm. She looked absolutely furious, ready to explode with anger, and demanded, "Alex, you did this on purpose. The company trained you for so long, giving you opportunities. Not only do you completely lack gratitude, but you are also deliberately trying to ruin us. Are you doing what's right by the company or by me, after everything I've done for you?" Listening to Sarah's attempt to make me feel guilty and her baseless accusations just left me speechless once again. I had already officially quit the company, but she was still trying to hold on to me and shift the blame. I rolled my eyes at her and retorted, "Sarah, did you completely lose your mind when you started dating Ben again? I have already quit the company. You yourself signed off on all my work handover documents. No matter what happens now, I have absolutely no obligation to tell you anything or help you." Hearing this, Sarah knew that she was legally in the wrong, but she started acting up anyway, becoming angry and completely unreasonable. She insisted, "I don't care about any of that. You can't just walk away from this. The very moment you left the company, it ran into this huge mess. The plan was originally drafted by you. You cannot possibly walk away from this responsibility." She paused, then added, her voice filled with venom, "To me, it looks like you are just jealous of Ben and are deliberately playing these games to get back at us. If this project fails because of you, you will cover the entire debt yourself." Hearing Sarah's completely unreasonable and selfish demands, I couldn't help but laugh out of sheer rage and disbelief. I had left the company, and she still wanted to dump all the potential problems and debt onto me. Everything good, she believed, belonged to her, and I was just supposed to be the convenient scapegoat when things went wrong. Thinking about it, I shot back at her. "The plan is Ben's responsibility now, Sarah. He is the project lead. Now there is a problem with it, and you are coming to me instead of him? Doesn't that tell you something?" Hearing this truth, Sarah was momentarily speechless, but the terrifying thought of facing a billion-dollar debt made her stubbornly insist, "No matter what, this plan was originally yours, Alex. Now there is trouble, and you left maliciously. You absolutely must handle this and hand over the patent technology, or else, when you try to look for a job later, think about how your background checks are going to turn out. I will make sure your name is ruined in this industry." Listening to Sarah's blatant threats didn't faze me at all. I remained calm and pulled out the document for my patent, chuckling softly. "Is that right, Sarah?" I asked. This technology was researched and developed entirely under my personal name, Alex Miller, with absolutely no ties to your company at all. What possible grounds do you have to order me around or demand anything from me? If you are unhappy about it, feel free to sue me and see how far that gets you." With that, Sarah's expression turned as dark and stormy as it possibly could be. She gave a cold, harsh laugh, then pulled a document out of her bag and slammed it onto the table between us. "No grounds, huh?" she sneered. "Take a good long look at this, Alex." I glanced at the document she had put on the table. It was a confidentiality agreement I barely remembered signing years ago. Back then, the company was just starting out, and I was completely focused on the work and building the business. I hadn't thought much about the paperwork at the time, assuming that Sarah and I were in this together forever and were inseparable partners. But now, looking at the document and her attitude, it seemed terrifyingly clear that Sarah had planned this all along, thinking several steps ahead to protect herself and control me. Seeing my silence as I read the document, Sarah became even more cocky and confident, folding her arms across her chest as if she had me completely cornered. "It's all right there, in black and white, Alex," she said triumphantly. "As long as you are looking for a job in this industry, you cannot engage in anything at all related to the company's businesses or technology. Otherwise, you will owe us the penalty fee. That's $500,000, Alex, not a single penny less. You signed it." Seeing this ridiculous and unfair demand made me laugh out loud in sheer disbelief. I had already broken up with her and left the company, and she was still trying to squeeze the last bit of value and control out of me. "Don't push this too far, Sarah," I warned her, my voice low and filled with anger. I was fuming inside, wanting nothing more than to just get away from this cold-hearted, manipulative person. Just then, Ben stepped in, trying to feign some kind of morality and reason. "Alex, a man really needs to have a conscience," he said, trying to sound wise. "Sarah has nurtured you for so long, giving you opportunities. Leaving without a single word doesn't seem right at all. With a company situation like this, just running off after issues arise doesn't make sense. I'd say you'll get more trouble than gain from doing this. Just hand over the technology, or else you won't be able to find work later on anywhere in this field." Listening to Ben's words, I laughed again, this time out of sheer exasperation. Sarah nurturing me? I was the one who had introduced her to the industry, connected her with resources, and built the foundation of the company. Without me, how could she possibly have gotten this far? Not being grateful was one thing. I could overlook that. But trying to completely turn the tables and claim she had nurtured me? Raising a dog would have been a better investment of my time and effort. I took a deep breath, trying my best to calm myself down before I said something I might regret. "Sure thing," I said with a small smile, my tone eerily calm and measured. Sarah and Ben exchanged quick glances, a flicker of surprise in their eyes. I guess they hadn't expected me to agree so easily to handing over the technology. "That's more like it, Alex," Sarah said, clearly thinking she had won. "At least you know what is good for you in the end." She smugly slapped the confidentiality agreement onto the table, strutting around like a peacock showing off its victory. But I drew out my next words slowly, letting my eyes drift between Sarah and Ben before finally settling on Sarah. "I have one condition," I stated clearly. Sarah's impatience flared immediately, a frown creasing her brow. "What condition?" she snapped, wanting me to just get on with it. "Spit it out, Alex." Leisurely, I fished my phone out of my pocket, opened a document I had prepared, and handed it to Sarah. "This," I said, "is a list of all of your expenditures over the past few years that I have covered. It totals $847,000. How exactly do you plan to pay this back to me?" Sarah had been so incredibly smug just moments before, but as soon as she caught sight of the large figure on the screen of my phone, her face turned ghostly white. 800,000? You have got to be kidding me, she shrieked, her voice sharp and cutting. That is completely impossible. I stared at her coldly, my tone completely devoid of any warmth or emotion. You know whether I am crazy or not, Sarah, I said flatly. See for yourself what these expenses are. I pointed to the list of expenditures on the screen, going through them one by one. 18 Chanel bags, 8 sets of Cartier jewelry, an entire collection of high-end perfumes, all luxury items that were bought with my money. And Ben, I said, looking at him directly, the watches and sports cars you got, they were all from my savings. I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. Not to mention, Sarah, you even embezzled company funds to buy him an apartment so you could sneak around with him in secret. Do I really have to pay for your affair as well? With each item I mentioned, Sarah's face grew darker and paler. By the time I finished listing everything, she was completely ashen and speechless, unable to say a word. I kept my glare icy and piercing, looking directly at her. What's wrong, Sarah? I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Cat got your tongue. Do you feel even a little bit guilty now? You didn't think about the consequences when you were doing all of that? Sarah opened her mouth, trying desperately to argue or defend herself, but nothing came out. This was because every single word I spoke was the absolute truth, and she knew it. She stuttered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Can't cough up the money, can you? I sneered, bluntly exposing her financial predicament. Makes sense. You spent it all on Ben and your affair. Were you really hoping this project would make you a fortune and cover everything? Too bad for you, I said, deliberately dragging out my gaze and making it clear I was mocking her. You will never see that day. You will breach the contract with the client, and the company will lose everything. What will you possibly pay me back with then? Hearing this, Sarah was absolutely fuming with rage, but she couldn't do anything about it. Honestly, I was completely done with the argument and just wanted to get away from them. I will give you exactly 1 day to pay me back the full amount, I said coldly, or we will see each other in court, and I will sue you for every single penny. After a moment of stunned silence, Sarah bit her lip, struggling to speak. I don't have that much cash right now, Alex, she said, her voice small. Can you please give me more time? But I had already anticipated that she would use that excuse. I pointed at her house in the distance and chuckled. Then mortgage your house and car to me, I said simply. At this, Sarah's eyes widened in complete disbelief. You're taking advantage of my plight? My house alone is worth $300,000, she shrieked. But I just shrugged indifferently. Call it whatever you want, I said calmly. If I do not see the money tomorrow, you can expect a lawyer's letter delivered right to your door. We will settle this in court. With that, I turned and left, walking away from her while she stood there, trembling with fury at my retreating back. Alex, just you wait, she growled after me, her eyes burning with malice and hatred. I won't let you get away with this. I will make you regret this. She had more to say, I'm sure, but I was already completely over this confrontation and the toxic situation. I just kept walking away, her angry eyes boring into me like sharp daggers. Sarah was not the kind of person to easily let things go or forgive a perceived wrong. And sure enough, by nightfall, my phone was blowing up with notifications and messages. I had just finished getting ready for bed when I realized that several business partners and longtime friends had either blocked my number or deleted me from their contacts. I was completely puzzled by this sudden development until a text message from Sarah popped up on my screen, taunting me and telling me to check the internet. When I did, I froze, stunned into silence by what I saw. Sarah had somehow managed to put me on blast as a major headline on the news. She had issued a public statement as the head of the company, claiming that everything that had happened that day was all a malicious scheme that I had orchestrated myself. She claimed that I, as the project manager, had become incredibly jealous of Ben and had retaliated against him by stealing company technology out of spite, causing the project to completely halt and resulting in massive financial losses for the company. She added that I had been rightfully fired from the company and promised that they would be pursuing legal action against me. The comments below the online article were brutal and filled with hatred. "Damn, because of scum like this, it's even harder for the rest of us honest people to find good jobs," one comment read. "Yeah, catch this jerk and I'll personally tear them a new one," another said. "This Alex guy is a real piece of work," someone else wrote. "His wife treated him well, gave him opportunities, but he bit the hand that fed him. You really never know what people are truly like until something like this happens." Another comment declared, "He's the type of person who belongs in jail. Our society should definitely boycott him and make sure he can't work anywhere again." Seeing all the calls to cancel me and ruin my reputation, I felt a strange mix of emotions, but I wasn't truly at a loss. Sarah had truly twisted the facts into something completely unrecognizable. Yes, she had effectively snatched my project away from me, let Ben take charge of my work, and tried to seize control of my patents. But now, she had completely flipped the narrative, accusing me of theft and sabotage to pressure me into surrendering my technology to her. Despite the public backlash, I wasn't fazed by her tactics at all. In fact, I found it almost amusing in a dark way. After all, I wasn't the one who was facing a ticking clock and a massive lawsuit. Without the technology I owned, her company would crash and burn in just 3 days. And sure enough, later that very night, there was a frantic, insistent knocking at my door. I opened it to find Ben standing there. He was still nursing some obvious injuries from earlier in the day, but he had a smug look on his face, as if he had already won. Seeing me staring at the online headline on my phone, he sneered arrogantly. "Hey, Alex," he said, his voice dripping with false concern. "You don't look so good online right now. Is all that public hate getting to you?" I glared back at him coldly. In a quiet, steady voice, I asked him, "What do you really want, Ben? Are you here for money or something else?" Hearing this, Ben just chuckled and nodded. "Ah, talking to someone smart is refreshing," he said, dropping the act a little. "I won't waste words with you, Alex. Hand over your security system technology and I will help clear your name." He paused, and his tone turned sinister as he delivered his threat. "Otherwise, you can just wait to be publicly shamed, ruined, and possibly even thrown in jail." Faced with Ben's so-called offer of clearing my name, I frowned and asked him, genuinely confused, "Things have already happened, Ben. Someone has to take the fall for this mess. Are you really that kind-hearted and generous to let go of everything you have gained from this situation?" Ben just sneered dismissively, a cold glint in his eyes. "Who said I am taking the fall for you, Alex?" he asked, a cruel smile on his face. "There is still Sarah, right? She is the company president. She approved everything from the very beginning. If anything goes wrong, it is entirely her responsibility. All I need to do is manipulate things a little bit and shift the blame, and she won't be able to explain herself or escape responsibility, no matter what she tries to do." Hearing Ben's chilling explanation, I felt a jolt of shock. This guy was completely ruthless, even towards the woman who supposedly loved him and had given him everything. My mind raced as I casually suggested, "Sarah has been so good to you, Ben. She seems to truly love you. Isn't it wrong to betray her like this, after everything she has done for you?" But Ben just waved his hand carelessly, as if it was a minor detail. "Doesn't matter," he said dismissively. Sarah is just a love-struck fool. She was just a pawn for me to use. I was just playing around with her the whole time. Honestly, even spending another second pretending with her disgusts me now. Once I have the money and the power I want, I can find any woman I desire." He showed a flash of genuine disgust in his eyes before impatiently urging me. "Have you decided yet, Alex? You only get one chance to make this choice. Hand over the system, or you are definitely taking the fall for everything." Facing Ben's threat, I wasn't scared at all. Instead, I smiled slyly and pointed behind him. "Oh, really, Ben?" I asked innocently. "Maybe you should ask Sarah if she is exactly on board with that plan of yours." Ben paused, then scoffed confidently. "Don't think for a second that I can't tell you're bluffing, Alex," he said, dismissing my words. "Quit messing around and just hand over the security system, or else I will—" But before Ben could finish his threat, a sharp fruit knife was suddenly pressed against his back. It was Sarah, standing there, her eyes red and swollen with tears. "Ben," she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief and sorrow. "Why would you betray me like this?" Ben froze completely, mechanically turning his head to look at her. He had clearly never expected Sarah to be there, listening to everything he had just said. "Sarah, let me explain," he said hurriedly, desperately trying to defend himself. "It's not what you think at all." His eyes were wide with panic, and cold sweat was dripping down his forehead. "It was all Alex's doing. He was threatening me. If I didn't agree to his plan, I would have been killed." His voice was frantic and weak, completely unconvincing. Sarah stared at the man she had once loved so deeply, the man she had given everything to. Her heart ached with a pain so intense it felt physical. All their past vows and declarations of love suddenly seemed so ridiculous and meaningless. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, letting the tears fall freely down her cheeks. "Ben," she said, her voice filled with sorrow and disgust. "You disgust me." Sarah's eyes were swollen and red, tears falling like scattered pearls down her pale cheeks. "When have I ever been bad to you, Ben?" she asked, her voice choked with emotion. "I gave up, Alex. I gave up the company's stability for a while. I even risked my family's support for you. What more could you possibly want from me?" Seeing his act completely fall apart in front of her, Ben suddenly laughed coldly, his eyes filled with mockery and contempt. "Stop pretending, Sarah," he said harshly. "Your so-called love is just a transaction, a deal. You needed me to keep the company steady and make it look good, and I needed your money and resources to get ahead. We were both just getting what we wanted from each other. Why act so noble about it now?" Sarah's heart felt like it was being squeezed by an invisible hand, the pain making it difficult to breathe. She had never in her life expected the man she had loved so truthfully to say such cruel and heartless words to her. "Ben," she murmured in disbelief and sadness, "you've really changed completely." "Changed?" Ben interrupted her harshly, a fierce, almost wild look in his eyes. "I never changed, Sarah. I have always wanted just one thing: money. Lots and lots of money. As for you, Sarah, you are of no use to me anymore." While Sarah was distracted by the emotional pain of his words, Ben suddenly grabbed the fruit knife she was holding and quickly aimed it at her chest. "Don't think for a second that I don't know that you have always looked down on me," he snarled, his face contorted with rage. "You were just pitying me, giving me charity and handouts. I don't need your pity, Sarah. Die." The knife gleamed coldly in the light, a terrifying threat aimed directly at Sarah's heart. But just in the nick of time, several figures dashed into the room and tackled Ben to the ground. It was the police, the ones I had called beforehand, arriving just in time to rescue Sarah. Cold handcuffs were quickly locked onto Ben's struggling hands as the officers subdued him. "Sarah, you won't have a peaceful death!" Ben screamed hysterically as he was dragged away. All you rich people deserve to go to hell. You're all fake!" His hysterical screams echoed through the room, yet they couldn't completely hide his own underlying fear and desperation. After leaving the police station later, ready to head home, Sarah suddenly appeared, blocking my path on the sidewalk. She looked completely worn out, her once radiant face now streaked with dried tears and smudged makeup. "Alex," she pleaded, her voice choked and raspy, "I am so incredibly sorry. I know now that I was terribly wrong about everything. Please, can you forgive me?" But I looked at her expressionlessly, feeling absolutely nothing inside. "We are already divorced, Sarah," I said simply. "There is nothing more to say between us." Upon hearing this, Sarah began to weep openly, grasping my hand tightly. "No, Alex. We still have feelings for each other, don't we?" she cried out desperately. "After all these years together, are you really willing to just let it all go like this?" I coldly chuckled and gently pulled my hand away from hers. "Feelings, Sarah?" I asked, my voice sharp. "You have the nerve to talk about feelings now? When Ben was framing me and ruining my name, where were you then? Why didn't you stand up for me or defend me? Now that you are down and out and facing ruin, you suddenly remember that I was good to you? Isn't it a little too late for that?" Sarah collapsed onto the ground, tears blurring her vision. "Alex, I know I was wrong. I truly, truly know it now. Please give me another chance," she begged, her voice desperate. "I won't want anything else from you. I will listen to everything you say. I promise, I won't ever betray you again." But her begging and promises only made me feel sickened. "Sarah, there is no future at all for us together," I said, my voice firm and final. "Take care of yourself." I gave her one last look of disgust and walked away, leaving her there. Her cries grew fainter and fainter behind me, and eventually vanished completely into the wind. After this whole terrible situation, Ben eventually got sentenced for his actions. He received a 30-year prison sentence, which seemed like a very long time. But that's what happened. Sarah ended up shouldering most of the massive debt for breaching the contract with the client, and her company was ultimately forced into bankruptcy. Adding to the public mess, someone maliciously edited footage and spread false information online, which led to people spreading even more damaging rumors about me. Because of all this, I even ended up with a criminal record myself, and had to serve 6 months in jail for something I didn't do. When the judge read the verdict in court, I sat there in the gallery feeling absolutely nothing at all. After leaving the courthouse 6 months later, I took a deep breath, savoring the long-lost taste of freedom. In the years that followed, I decided to start my own company from scratch. I gathered a team of like-minded people who were talented and trustworthy, and we worked day and night, putting in all our effort. With the patents I owned and the technology we developed, the company grew rapidly, becoming more and more successful with each passing day. Before long, my company became a leader in the industry, known for innovation and quality. My name started to become synonymous with efficiency and reliability in the field. As for Sarah, I haven't heard a single thing about her since that day. Maybe she is still dealing with the consequences of her mistakes and the debt she incurred. But honestly, that is none of my business anymore. I have moved on completely, focusing on new goals, new adventures, and building a better future for myself.